Your kids can't eat cake, they're getting bigger, sister announced at my son's 9th birthday party while cutting triple slices for her twins. It was my house, my cake. I let them eat. Then calmly said, everyone out. Showing starts in 20 minutes. Dad showing me. Yeah, I'm selling. You have 14 days. Her husband dropped the plate. My son's birthday candles were still smoking when my sister said it, like it was a normal, helpful observation. Your kids can't eat cake, Anne announced, loud enough for the whole living room to hear. They're getting bigger. We were in my house in Aurora, Colorado. In the kitchen, I scrubbed myself after late shifts, the one with my son's handmade 9-banner taped crooked to the cabinets. Anne was already holding the knife, not offering, not asking, just taking. She slid the blade through the center of the sheet cake I ordered from King Soopers at 7:18 a.m. that morning. Chocolate. Happy 9th birthday. Miles written in blue frosting because that's what he picked. Then she cut 3 slices, not 3 total. 3 slices for each of her twins. Thick like bricks. My boys, Evan and Eli, both 6, were bouncing on their toes plates, out like they were at a buffet. My son Miles stood beside me, with his paper crown pushed back on his head, watching. Quiet. Too quiet. His fingers were worrying the little plastic ring from his party favor bag. Twist, twist, twist. My brain did that weird counting thing it does when I'm about to have to be the adult in a room full of adults. 9 kids invited, 6 parents staying, my dad on the couch, Anne's husband Craig at my kitchen island, my neighbor Jen holding her phone up for pictures. 1 cake, 1 knife in my sister's hand. Anne slapped the first triple slice onto a plate and slid it to her twins like she owned my counter. Miles's friend Noah whispered, "Dang." Miles didn't laugh. I felt my mouth go dry. My hands went cold. I said, Anne. She didn't even look at me. Amity, relax. It's just cake. I watched her cut another thick slab. I said, calm. That's enough. Anne finally glanced up, eyebrows raised, like I was the one being rude. I'm helping you. Always underfeed at these things. My stomach tightened. Underfeed like my kid wasn't standing right there. Miles's eyes flicked to me, checking my face like it was a weather report. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't snatch the knife. I didn't make a scene. I picked up the serving spatula, slid a normal slice onto my son's plate, and set it in front of him. Eat, I told him gently. You can have cake at your own birthday. Anne made a soft laugh. See drama for no reason. Her twins started shoveling frosting like it was a competition. My dad called from the couch. Amity, don't do this today. I turned and looked at him. He had that familiar expression. Tight mouth. Tired eyes. Like he already decided I was going to be the problem. Anne leaned toward my son and said in that reasonable voice that always sounds like a knife wrapped in a napkin, Miles, sweetheart, you don't need that much sugar. It's not good for boys who are, getting bigger. My son froze with his fork halfway up. My brain went very still. I felt the exact second something in me clicked into place. I didn't scream. I said, okay, everybody enjoy. Anne blinked. See, thank you. I walked to the hallway closet, opened it, and pulled out a manila folder I'd shoved behind the winter scarves. Because I'm a social worker. I document, I prepare, I keep receipts, and I don't threaten unless I can follow through. I came back into the kitchen, set the folder on the counter next to the cake, and looked around the room. Then I said clearly, like I was announcing the next party game, everyone out. Showing starts in 20 minutes. Silence hit the room like someone killed the music. My dad sat up, Anne's smile slipped. What are you talking about? I met her eyes. Yeah, I said, I'm selling. Dad stared like I spoke another language. You can't. I can, I said. My voice stayed even. And you all have 14 days. Craig stopped chewing. He was still holding a plate with a triple slice. His hand trembled. He whispered, what? I pointed at the folder. Not a joke, not a tantrum, 14 days. Craig's plate tilted, then slipped from his fingers and hit my tile floor with a wet slap of chocolate and frosting. If you're wondering why cake was the final straw, it's because it wasn't about cake. It was about a pattern. I'm Amity Tanner. I'm 34. I'm a social worker for Arapahoe County Family Services Unit, which means I spend my weekdays telling other people to set boundaries while my own family treats my boundaries like a suggestion. Miles is 9. His dad is not in the picture. Not dead, not tragic, just gone in the boring way men leave when they don't want the work. He pays $312 a month in child support when he feels like it if I'm lucky. I bought my townhouse 2 years ago, April 14th, 2024. $389,500. FHA loan. 6.75% interest. My monthly payment is $2,847.17 with HOA. Do you know how many times my dad has said, must be nice about my mortgage, like it's a spa membership? My sister Anne is 36, married, 2 incomes, 2 kids, the twins. She lives 40 minutes away in Parker in a house my dad helped them bridge into with a $20,000 loan that became a gift the second she cried. The family language is always the same. Be flexible. Don't make a scene. Family helps. Anne has it harder. You're strong, Amity. You can handle it. Translation. I'm the one they can lean on without consequences. 3 incidents just off the top of my head because my brain keeps a ledger even when I try not to. The first was my graduation, May 2014. Master's program. My cap and gown still smelled like cheap polyester. Anne showed up 40 minutes late, walked down the aisle mid-ceremony, and whispered loudly, "Can you hurry this up, Evan's teething?" Evan didn't exist yet. She wasn't even pregnant. She just wanted the attention pivoted back to her life. My dad laughed like it was cute. That's Anne. The second was when Miles was 4. We were at my parents' house for Christmas. Miles was in a tiny sweater that itched, holding his little plate like it was fragile. Anne's dog jumped up and knocked the plate out of his hands. Cookies everywhere. Miles started crying. Normal kid crying. Anne said, "Oh my God, he's so sensitive." My dad said he's a boy. Toughen him up. Miles wiped his own tears with his sleeve and whispered, "I'm okay," like he needed to prove it. That's the moment I realized my kid was learning to shrink. The third was last summer, July 2025. Anne called me at 10:11 p.m. "Hey," she said, "too bright. Quick thing, we need you to watch the twins tomorrow." "Hey," she said, "too bright. Quick thing, we need you to watch the twins tomorrow." I had a home visit scheduled at 8:00 a.m., a court report due by noon. Miles had swim lessons at 5:30. I said I can't. There was a pause and then she went cold. Well, I already told them you would. I remember staring at my ceiling, feeling my throat tighten, and thinking, this is how they do it. They decide first. They inform you second. Then they punish you for objecting. I still did it. Because I didn't want the twins to be the ones punished. Because I didn't want my dad calling me selfish. And because I thought it was temporary. It wasn't. The biggest lever my family uses isn't yelling. It's access. Access to my dad's approval. Access to being included. Access to peace. And now that I own something they can stand inside and feel entitled to, the comments shifted. My dad started calling my place our backup and started calling my guest room the twins' room. Craig started leaving tools in my garage like it was his, and every time I tried to correct it, I got the same response. Amity, relax. Why are you making it weird? We're family. I swallowed it for years. I swallowed it because I was exhausted, because I was raising a kid alone, because I was tired of being painted as the angry one. And because in my line of work, I've seen what happens when people don't have support systems. I kept thinking, at least I have family. But family that requires you to disappear to keep the peace isn't support. It's control. After the plate hit the floor, nobody moved for a full second. The twins paused mid-chew, frosting on their lips, eyes flicking between adults like little radar dishes. Jen, my neighbor, whispered, "Amity, what is happening?" My dad stood up like he was about to physically block me from my own sentence. "You are not ruining your son's party over cake." "It's not cake," I said, still calm. My hands were shaking, but my voice held. "It's boundaries." Anne scoffed. "Selling. You can't just decide that because you're having a mood." I opened the folder. Inside the signed listing agreement, the email thread with my realtor, the showing schedule, the notice I printed for occupants. Because here's the part I hadn't said out loud yet. My dad and Anne had been staying over more and more. First, it was just weekends. Then it was just while we repaint our kitchen. Then it was we're basically here anyway. 2 weeks earlier, January 12th, 2026, my dad brought over a suitcase and casually said, "We're going to be here a bit. Anne's having plumbing issues." I looked at the suitcase and said, "Dad, no." He smiled like I was joking. "Lev, come on." Anne walked in behind him and said, "Don't be dramatic. It's temporary. Everything is temporary until it's your life." They took my guest room. Then they started spreading into my living room. Then Craig started leaving mail here, actual envelopes with their last name like they were establishing residency by paper trail. That's when my social worker brain went from hope to clarity. I texted my realtor that night. Screenshot, January 12th, 2026, 9:46 p.m. "Me, if I list my house, how fast can we move? I need out. Realtor Kara, we can list this week. Clean photos, pricing consult tomorrow. Are there other adults living there? Me, their family. Not on deed, not on mortgage. I need them gone. Kara." Then we do this clean, documented, written notice. I'll walk you through. I printed a written notice the next morning and slid it into the folder. Not an eviction, not yet. A demand to vacate with a date. Because I already knew how this would go if I tried to argue emotionally. So I stopped arguing and started documenting. Back at the party, Anne crossed her arms. You're embarrassing yourself. My dad pointed at the cake mess like it was evidence. Look at this. Kids are here. I glanced at Miles. He was staring at the floor, shoulders tight, doing that small kid thing where they try to be invisible so adults don't explode. That did something to me. I asked very calmly, Dad, what address do you get your mail at? He blinked. What? I repeated. What address is on your driver's license? Anne snapped. Stop interrogating like you're at work. I am at work, I said. I'm protecting my child. Craig finally spoke. His voice was thin. Amity, we're not squatters. Then leaving in 14 days should be easy, I said. Anne laughed sharp. Where would we even go? I stared at her. Not my problem. Dad's face hardened. You can't kick your father out. I can ask anyone to leave my home, I said, still not raising my voice. You're not on the deed. You're not on the mortgage. You're guests who overstayed. Anne stepped closer, voice dropping into that sweet, poisonous whisper. You're doing this because you're jealous. I almost laughed. Jealous of what? The way she gets to be cruel and still be called the fun one. The way my dad protects her feelings like they're glass. I flipped the showing schedule today, I said, pointing. Kara is coming at 3:40 p.m. with 2 buyers. They asked for a quick look because they're pre-approved and leaving town tomorrow. Dad's mouth opened, closed, opened again. This is insane. No, I said. This is planned. Anne lunged for the folder. I slid it out of reach. You're going to traumatize Miles, she hissed. I looked at her. You told my son he can't eat cake at his own birthday, while you fed your kids triple slices. Don't pretend you care about trauma. Her eyes flashed. My dad turned to the room like he wanted allies. Everyone, this is. I cut him off with one sentence. Party's over. Please take your kids home. Parents started moving fast because parents know when an adult situation is turning into a core memory. Jen quietly ushered Noah toward the door. Miles's friend's mom mouthed, "Call me," and squeezed my arm on the way out. Within 5 minutes, the house emptied except for my family. The twins were still licking frosting off their forks like nothing happened. Craig said, Amity, please. I asked him, where are your boxes? He frowned. What? If you were living here, I said, show me your things. Show me the closet you're using. Show me the mail you're receiving here. Dad snapped, stop. I didn't stop because that's what people like them rely on. Your discomfort. And then he finally said it. We were going to talk to you about that. My stomach went cold. About what? Anne gestured around like she owned the walls. About making this official. Dad nodded. It makes sense for us to use this place. You're hardly ever home. You work all the time. I blinked. Use it how? Craig stared at the counter. Wouldn't look at me. Dad said like he was offering a compromise. You can stay here too, but we'd all be under one roof. Family. That's when I stopped negotiating in my head. I felt my teeth pressed together. They weren't staying temporarily. They were moving in. And my son's birthday cake comment wasn't about sugar. It was about claiming territory. That's when I stopped negotiating in my head. I turned, walked to Miles, crouched to his level, and said softly, Hey, go grab your backpack and your headphones. Okay, he said. He nodded immediately. Too immediately, like he'd been waiting. He ran to his room. Anne barked. What are you doing? I'm taking my child out, I said, because in 20 minutes strangers are walking through my house and I'm not letting him watch you fight for access to his home like it's a prize. Dad's voice rose. You're overreacting. I opened my phone and hit record. Not theatrically, just calmly. And I said, say that again. Tell me I'm overreacting for refusing to let you move into my home without consent. Dad froze. Anne's eyes widened. Craig swallowed hard. Because the second documentation exists, their confidence collapses. Kara texted at 3:12 p.m. on my way. Do you have the house clear? Working on it, I typed back. I looked at my dad. You have 14 days, I said again. Or I file. At 3:37 p.m., Kara pulled into my driveway. Blazer, clipboard, all business. Miles stood by the stairs with his backpack clutching his stuffed dinosaur. We're going to Jensen's for an hour, I told him. He whispered, Are we losing the house? No, baby, I said. We're choosing what happens. That's different. Kara stepped in. Amity. I handed her the folder. These adults are not owners. They are refusing to leave. Dad snapped, I'm your father. Kara nodded. And this is her property. Anne forced a smile. We're family. This is a misunderstanding. Showings are scheduled, Kara said. The home must be vacant except for the cellar. Craig muttered, This is humiliating. It should be, I said. Then the buyers arrived. Polite, early 40s. They froze at the smashed cake and the tension. The wife asked, "Should we come back?" Dad tried to block them. "Not a good time. My daughter is upset." I looked at Kara and said, "Steady. Please call the non-emergency line and request an officer to document trespass if they don't leave." Anne snapped, "Are you serious?" "Yes." Dad barked, "You'd call the police on your own family." "I'm calling your bluff," I said, "because you think you're entitled to my space." "You're not." Kara made the call. Anne's twins started whining. "Mom, I want to go home," Evan said. "Not now," Anne hissed. And I knew she'd choose pride over peace every time. Dad pointed at me. "You're a social worker. You should know better." "I do," I said quietly. "That's why I'm doing this." At 4:02 p.m., the officer arrived. "Who owns the residence?" I handed him my license and mortgage statement. "Me." "Are they on the deed or lease?" "No." He turned to Dad and Anne. "She's requesting you leave." Dad started, "This is my daughter, sir." The officer cut in calm. "This is property rights. If she wants you to leave, you leave." Anne cried, "We have nowhere to go." "That's not her legal responsibility," he said. Dad cried softly, "Amity, don't do this. You'll regret it." "I regret letting you teach my son his feelings don't matter," I said. "I don't regret stopping." Anne snapped, "You're punishing us because you're lonely." I stayed silent. The officer asked formal trespass warning. "Yes," I said. Anne wailed, "You're ruining everything." The officer wrote it up while Kara still walked the buyers through. Professionals don't pause for manipulation. When he finished, he said, "If you return without permission, you can be arrested for trespass." They left. That night, I changed the locks, updated the garage code, and at 7:19 p.m. texted the family chat, "Do not come to my home. All communication goes through email. You have 14 days to retrieve your belongings by appointment only." The next morning, Miles ate cereal. "Is Aunt Anne mad?" "Yes." "Did I do something wrong?" "No, you did nothing wrong. Adults made choices. I'm fixing it." He blinked. "Okay." Then he said, "I liked when you didn't yell." "Me too," I said. "Yelling doesn't protect us. Action does." 2 days later, Anne came with a small grocery store cake and texted I brought a cake for Miles. "Can we talk like adults?" I didn't open the door. "Drop it on the porch," I texted. "Leave." "You can't keep him from his family. Access to my child is earned by respect, not blood." She left angry and took the cake. Dad emailed from a new address. Subject disappointed. "You humiliated me. You're breaking this family." I forwarded it to my attorney because I wanted clarity, and I wanted my son to see a boundary held. Kara listed the house on January 17th, 2026. We accepted an offer on January 28th. Closing is February 24th. Miles and I are moving to a small townhouse near his school. No room for temporary guests who never leave. My family says I lost it over cake. I let them. This was never about cake. It was about Miles learning his home is safe and watching me protect that quietly all the way through. This story isn't about a cake scandal. It's about a moment of necessary growth. You can swallow disrespect for years until your child stands there witnessing his boundaries being erased right before his eyes. That's when silence stops being strength and becomes complicity in your own diminishment. Real power doesn't come from raising your voice. It comes from clarity, documented facts, legal boundaries, and calm decisions that protect both home and child. The sale isn't an escape. It's the deliberate choice of a safer space where the rules are transparent and enforced. What matters most is what the boy sees. That love is action, not a demand to endure for family's sake. He watches his mother demonstrate that family ties don't grant automatic access to control, and that presence in your space and in your child's life must always be earned by respect, not claimed by blood. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any confrontation. The core lesson is simple but profound. You don't need to prove you deserve respect. You need to build boundaries when respect is absent. Documentation replaces drama. Consistency replaces convincing. And protecting your peace becomes the blueprint your child will carry forward.